So diving into this one, informative hero VO. The Overwatch system, voice system was built from the ground up for this project, which gave us a lot of flexibility. And we were really inspired by GDC talks we've seen, things from Valve and games we've appreciated and worked on in the past, like Fallout and Crysis. And we took all these really good ideas that we'd seen and worked with in the past, and we're able to kind of start from the ground up. So it's a very stimulus-driven system, meaning, and a stimulus to us means a moment in time has happened, more or less. You know, you hit the E button, or someone gets on the point, or time is running out. All these things are stimulus. And then also, those things are really driven by these criteria becoming true. And there could be more than just that, though. You could be, you could shoot your rival, Reaper, for example, and that's an additional criteria. So we can kind of couple in these additional building criteria to do more unique things. And we'll show some examples of that. We also decided, we went back and forth a lot if this should be a client system, if this should be a server system. We went the server authenticated direction, which allowed us to have these really cool shared moments. So, for example, you're in the dropship at the beginning of one of the missions, and the people are talking back and forth between two characters. Everyone on the team can hear those same lines, and then those same lines being selected. If it were a client-based system, you know, they wouldn't be able to have those shared moments. Also, then we invested a lot in powerful post-processing, which we'll show you, and we used Wwise external voice to really help, pipe all this data through in the cleanest and easiest way we possibly could. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the external voice real quick here. So if I go over to Wwise. So I showed you a bit of this before, but this is the only dialogue event in the game. And if you kind of look at it like this, all these little switches here are basically questions that are being asked when a dialogue happens. Is this a radio line? That's a question. And if it is, it will play what's in this container. And then it asks, what kind of VO type are you? Are you a mech line? Are you a normal line? Or are you an announcer line? And then if it's any of those, if it's an announcer line, it goes ahead and plays at this point and sends it to the proper bus. So if you go onto the settings, you'll see that it's sent to the announcer dialog bus. It's played with a priority that we've defined. It looks like that it's 100. Actually, I think all of our VO is at 100 priority because we manage the limiting in other ways. And then if you go into, like, say, normal VO, we ask another question here of, like, is this an ultimate line of VO? If it is, then it chooses between, just regular 3D or 3D ultimate, or if it's you, it plays in 2D. So there's all these, like, built-in questions with this event that happens, and they're all kind of defined from the game. And I could show you a bit of how we did some of that in here. So if I open the stimulus, this is a voice stimulus. And let's pick something good. Let's say like bear trap deploy. There's all these properties on here. So we're managing things like how we broadcast this out, who hears it. This is a player only line, so only he's going to hear it. Even though it's coming from the server, when it gets to that client, it doesn't play on all the other clients, just that one. It's saying that you actually do hear it. It says what category it belongs to, which helps us manage how things are cut off. And then it does things like I mentioned before, radio, so team radio. That's that question I showed. Or if it's in 3D or 2D, that's sort of known by the game. Or this ultimate checkbox here lets it react differently. These are all different properties that we define. So I want to show you then a video of the writing and processing that we do. So I'm going to start this off, and I'll be talking through the video. So like you just showed, this just shows the whole process. This is our writers tool. And along the side, these are all those stimuli. So these are all those moments in time. And this is all the lines for our character, Reinhardt. Now, in this particular one, we have one current line that says, justice will be done. And a second here, I'm going to show you what it's like for our writer to come along and create a line. So these are the properties I was showing. And another key piece of information here is as soon as a line is created, a file name is created as well. So the file names are defined by a mix of a GUID in the system and a shortened version of the stimulus name. So I'm making a new line here. This line is, Hammer of Justice. And I can go ahead and record. So I can hold down that button up there, a little record line, and grab my microphone for TempVio, record in. It'll immediately open up Reaper to do some post-processing, open up LMB, volume level the line, and then somewhere in a brief blip, Wwise actually opens and converts it to a WEM, and it's in the game. So that allows us a very, very fast iteration pipeline for doing TempVio and just working with new ideas and trying things out. So that same technology really helps us when we come back from the studio. We have a centralized location where under our native, which is our English language, there's a raw folder with all the characters, and every file in the game lives in this under each character. And if I go down to Juggernaut, which is our internal name for Reinhardt, and I choose these 10 lines, and I drag it in, the system can already know that I'm raw audio and I need to be processed, I need to be built in. So it scans the files, it brings up a prompt for me to say, do I want to import these? I say I want to import these, and I say okay. And it goes ahead, does the exact same process. Reaper opens, generates or does the post-processing for us, which we define obviously offline. It volume levels it all to one volume level actually, and then we control actually the you don't want the jumps as loud as the ultimates. We actually control that on the stimulus level. And then they're in the game and ready to be checked in. So these are all the assets that are created, and we can now hear those lines in game. This also helps us with localization and consistency across locales. Exact same process, except now it's in the ESMX folder. Same file name, same everything. They drag in, it imports, and we have a localized and consistent localized voice for the game. One thing that you may be thinking is, sometimes a certain locale may want their process to be different because it's maybe a different register of voice, or it just doesn't work with that particular language. So we can localize the RFX chains, the Reaper assets, to, we could use a different one with different languages. So that just gave us a ton of flexibility. And Tomas will talk about some of these stats here.
Yeah, more fun facts. So, as I said before, we had 3 platforms and 13 locales. All of them are listed there. We don't actually have that much voice. If you think about it, 9,400 loose files across 21 heroes and the announcer. So in totality, per platform, per locale is roughly 160. In total, 6 to 6.2 gigs, 370 kilobyte files. We don't really do lip sync yet. We still hope we can have some time to do that later, but so usually you duplicate all that because per voice line you have a lip sync file. Size is rather small, 50K. We more have these call outs on a battlefield. And as Scott said, this part of the voice pipeline is really fast because we don't need to load the whole project. We can just convert a wave into a them. And because we're using this external voice API, I'm just playing a voice event, and I'm providing the media file in the moment I'm using it. So essentially, I'm just passing a memory pointer to Wwise, and it will just play that. So now we come to the voice system, and for us, it was key that not only the players would communicate to each other, and we have a built-in voice over IP system in it, where you just teamed up in your teams, and you can hit a button and you can talk about it. But not everyone is super confident with talking to someone or hearing them, so people turn it off or don't play with it. And then we still wanted to have that voice is an informative system that just lives there. So we wanted that the heroes talk to each other. So you can have the players talk to each other, we have the heroes there. And they talk about objectives because it's really important that you follow the objective. If that is escorting a payload or capturing a point, the heroes themselves will call it out. If no one is on the payload after a couple of seconds, they will say, the payload is not moving itself or something. And that really helped because we have the stimulus system where we can set the criteria where magically the words just appear. It's pretty much in the moment you write it in the writer's tool, you define and hook up these stimulus, the voice lines just appear. And as an example, we have 3 scenarios where 3 heroes share the same situation, and we see them from 3 different perspectives. And just as a quick heads up, Farah will fly in the air, use her ultimate, which is the rocket barrage. Reinhardt and Widowmaker on the different team. Reinhardt will pop his shield, and Widowmaker will sniper the Farah out of the air. That's pretty much the scenario. You can see some of the text on the screen define the stimulus. So let's see if that makes sense to you after the first example.
Justice reigns from above!
So obviously we just saw it from Farah's perspective. And there's a little bit of a list, and I don't want to go too deep, but so we see the column of stimuli, and the first yellow line is the one we heard first, which was a little jump, and then her rocket barrage. And then the third column is the broadcast, which means who hears that line. And for the jump, only the player hears that. No one else needs to hear when you are jumping. But the rocket barrage is an ultimate, and it is on a category of critical, so it cuts out other lines because it's really important, and we broadcast that to enemies and players. And that's why we heard that line. Then Farah got killed. That's a death. Obviously, a death is even more important than a critical line, and it would interrupt that. And a death is always communicated to everyone in the whole game because it's always good to hear, oh, someone died here. And we also have a kill feed visually to communicate that. And then the last one was a Reinhardt charge, which again is communicated to all. It's a pretty important ability, but that's why it's uncritical. But we share that one to everyone and not only the enemies, because you, even with a friendly Reinhardt, want to know when he's doing the charge because you might want to protect him or heal him in that moment. So the next situation is from Widowmaker perspective, which is the sniper. Yep. Totally skipped that. There we go.
Shield engaged!
Justice reigns from above!
Next.
So now we heard a few new lines. Although again, because everything is server authenticated, nothing really changed. All the lines are there, just the yellow lines are different. So first thing, Reinhardt popped his shield, and that is a thing that happened before as well. We just decided that Widowmaker would not, Farah, the rocket lady, didn't hear it because it's only broadcasted to friendlies and players, because now suddenly, the sniper is safe behind her shield. The rocket barrage happened, the death, and then Widowmaker made a line. Next. It's like a little taunt line. But what we actually do is only the player hears that, not the person who gets killed. So we don't want to create too much, toxic environment. But you still get the, yeah, got you. That was a good kill. And it's on a chatter category. And then Reinhardt happened again. So now we hear Reinhardt's perspective.
Shield engaged!
Justice reigns from above!
Forever! I'll feel that in the morning.
So we had, again, new lines here that we didn't hear before, which was the Reinhardt, when his shield got damaged, he comments to himself that my shield won't forever. And we communicate with that it's a good time for the player to maybe go hide behind a pillar because the Farah is really doing a lot of damage on his shield. So that is really more for a cue for the player. He does his charge, we heard that, but then he slams into the wall without picking up another hero to damage. So we know that in the game script, and we know that was an unsuccessful charge. We have a voice line for a successful charge. This was an unsuccessful charge. And so we now taunt the player. And we say, you gotta try better next time and aim better. So we have this little fun line that only the player hears, that he has a some sore muscles the next day.